Welcome to the On3 studios here in Nashville. It's the Wiltfong Whip Around with Steve Wiltfong. I'm your host, Josh Newberg. Today's May 30th. We're going to get to it. But first, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel, the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. Now, Steve, summer is here. Officially starting official visit season this coming weekend. We're going to get into it. Big weekends at Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, Missouri, UCF, and others. But let's start this thing in Tuscaloosa, where Alabama kicks it off with a big visit weekend. And here we look. We got some 5 stars on campus. Ty Haywood. Then we got quarterback Keelan Russell, Jordan Davison, Jordan Perlotti, who is committed to Georgia, one of the top linebackers in the South. But let's start with Ty Haywood. We just got to talk to him here at the On3 Elite Series. Ty Haywood going to Tuscaloosa this weekend. But Alabama not the favorite in this recruitment.
No, I think Oklahoma has set the tone in the recruitment of Ty Haywood, but Alabama has a chance to make a major move this weekend. This is the program that he grew up rooting for. He's clicked with Coach Kapalovic, who was at Baylor for a quick cup of coffee in between Michigan State and Alabama, so there's a connection there. And he's excited to get on his official visit. I think Alabama is one of the biggest threats to where Oklahoma stands right now.
Yeah, I mean, Ty Haywood has mentioned that, Alabama is a dream type offer for him. And we know he's in the mix, but we'll see if they can really make up some ground on Oklahoma. All right, the next prospect we got to talk about, this was kind of a big revelation that we found out at the On3 Elite Series. Keelan Russell and Alabama are much more serious than we had been giving them credit for.
Well, Alabama went on the road this spring, Nick Sheridan, Jamarcus Shepard, and that staff to evaluate quarterbacks, watch them throw live on their campuses. And this is the young man that rose to the top of the board. This is QB1 for them. Now, I do think there was a time where Julian Lewis could have jumped in the fold under the right circumstances. But Keelan Russell's the guy that they're all in on. They're bringing him in on an official visit this weekend. He's committed to SMU, had a great return visit for the Pony Express recruiting weekend a few weekends ago. It's the local program. They're moving to the ACC. He said SMU is putting together a potential masterpiece for him as they build that program around him. But I think Alabama, we can view them as one of the biggest threats to flip him from SMU. Them and Oregon are the 2 programs I'm watching. He's locked in an official visit to Oregon June 21st. He's also going to be at Florida next weekend, but he's already having some great chalk talks with Nick Sheridan. They're already building some chemistry there. Kalen DeBoer, what they've done with Michael Penix, developing him into a top 10 pick, and the track record of winning under Coach DeBoer also speaks to Keelan Russell. He's a state champion at Duncanville. So he's excited to get to Alabama this weekend, get around the coaches some more, see what that environment's like for him. And Alabama's got a chance to flip this young man.
I was recently introduced to Roback, and I couldn't be more excited. When I say impressed by the quality and comfort, I mean it. I literally can't take this stuff off since trying it on. For starters, the Roback polos are my favorite polos. They not only have fun designs for every occasion and season, but they fit perfectly and easily transition throughout the day. Roback's everyday shorts are the perfect pairing as well. They are so comfortable and have an elastic waistband and great fabric that is made to stretch. Finally, the Roback hoodie is by far my favorite piece of clothing I own. It is so comfortable. I wear this to start my day, end my day, and everything in between. Easy to be active in it or just relax. The hoodie will fit whatever the day has in store. They have also released a ton of new products. Between their brand new Tailwind tees and bathing suits, Roback is ready for the warm weather. Roback has also been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with college stars Jalen Milroe, Cade Klubnik, among many others that are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes. Use the code STEVE on Roback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with the code STEVE.
Yeah, hey, early on, it looked like Alabama was going to maybe take a shot at flipping Deuce Knight. We thought that, the comparison there to Penix and the way that they were recruiting him. But now it looks like Alabama is making Keelan Russell more of that priority. And we thought, before the On3 Elite Series, we were watching Ole Miss in terms of Keelan Russell. Yeah. Would you say that you are now watching Alabama?
Alabama, and then I think Oregon's in a sneaky
Right.
good position too. They have a lot of inroads at that high school between Coach Samples, Coach Stein, the offensive coordinator. Keelan talked about the development of Bo Nix under that coaching staff, the exciting offensive style of play. So he's really excited to get out to Eugene also, so they're a program to watch alongside Alabama.
All right, talking about connections, Jordan Davison, he's at Mater Dei. We know there's a ton of connections between Mater Dei and Alabama. Is Jordan Davison the next to go from Cali to Tuscaloosa?
Well, right now I think he's going to end up at Ohio State. But you and I both know that when these guys go through their processes and take visits, we can have pulse changes. So Alabama, they have Anthony Turbo Rogers committed, part of a recruiting class that ranks number 8 nationally. Jordan Davison's taken his official visit this weekend. I think we've seen several schools kind of trend in this recruitment. Ohio State, his relationship with Carlos Lachlan has the Buckeyes in fantastic shape. But he's at Alabama this weekend, so we'll see if they can make a move on Ohio State.
All right, now last prospect we want to talk about is Jaden Perlotti. Now he's an in-state linebacker. He's an in-state Georgia linebacker committed to the Dogs, but he's kind of been flirting around a little bit. He talks to Florida State, and now he's going to be on campus in Alabama. Do you think this is a real potential flip target for the Tide?
Well, there's a lot of schools that Jaden Perlotti has kept warm since he committed to Georgia. He's also been back to Georgia several times. But when I saw Jaden Perlotti compete at the 7v7 battle competition in South Florida, he was wearing Alabama gloves. This is a program that he's been excited about since that new staff's gotten in there. So he's keeping Alabama warm. I'm not ready to predict that he's on flip watch or anything right now, but there has been times where it looked like he was going to bounce out of Georgia's class. So we'll see what happens this weekend.
All right. This weekend, Kalen DeBoer puts on his first big official visit weekend of the summer at Alabama. And what's kind of your expectations for Alabama this weekend? How do you see this weekend kind of playing out? Is there anybody that maybe you have on commit watch?
I don't know if there's anyone that I have on commit watch for Alabama this weekend, but they're in the top 2 or 3 for a lot of these prospects. And when guys get on Alabama's campus and get around this coaching staff, I think they immediately feel comfortable around them. They've created an environment around there that's very inviting. All the coaches on staff really enjoy being around each other, working for Coach DeBoer. So there's just great energy in that building. And I think the guys like Ty Haywood, Keelan Russ are going to feel that when they get to campus this weekend.
Yeah. All right. Bama fans, tap in with us. Let us know. Comment section below. Who are you excited about this weekend? Do you have anybody on commit watch? Let us know. Comment section below. All right. Georgia, they got several elite official visitors in Athens this weekend and a couple flip targets. Let's start with those flip targets, Steve. USC commitments visiting Georgia this weekend. We got 2 5-stars in defensive lineman Justice Terry and edge Isaiah Gibson. Now, no surprise that they're back on campus in Athens. We talked to Isaiah Gibson over the weekend. Let's start with Justice Terry, though. They both committed to USC on the same visit weekend out in LA earlier in the spring. Justice Terry back in Athens, what does it mean to you?
And that Justice Terry commitment was a flip because he was committed to Georgia. I think Georgia's got a really good chance to flip both these guys back.
Wow.
Isaiah Gibson, he's got Tennessee in the mix. Justice Terry talking to a few other programs as well. I just think when they committed to USC, that only turned things up for Kirby Smart in Georgia. They're getting them back this weekend. They were in instant communication with those guys, even from the moment they committed to USC. I don't think anything has changed from the amount of dialogue that they've had with Georgia. Now they're back this weekend, and I think we've seen this story before. Michael Williams was at one point committed to Georgia, or USC. Christian Miller was at one point committed to USC. They're on Georgia's team right now, and so it's hard to pull these blue chippers from Georgia's neck of the woods out west, and USC is going to have their hands full keeping Justice Terry and Isaiah Gibson in the fold moving forward.
Yep, we'll talk more about these two after the weekend, but there are even more big names on campus. 5-star linebacker Zayden Walker, the number 1 linebacker in America. He's back in Athens this weekend. It seems like he's there every weekend or every other weekend. Is there any chance that they could close on Walker this week?
Well, they're also bringing him in for camp this week, so he's going to get on campus and be able to work out with Glenn Schumann and company and get a feel for what it would be like to get coached by those guys. So, look, talking to my colleague Chad Simmons, we think Georgia is in excellent position there. South Carolina's trying to make that recruitment interesting. Miami's another program that's been in the mix for Zayden Walker, but Georgia, he understands what that opportunity is for him and his development, and we like where Georgia stands coming into the official visit this weekend.
All right, and we know that wide receiver Travis Smith is at the top of that wide receiver board at UGA. Who's the biggest competition for him, and do you like Georgia here?
Yeah, him and C.J. Wiley are the two coveted in-state pass catchers that Georgia would love to sign this week. My On3 RPM is on Georgia for Travis Smith. Auburn, Tennessee are a couple of the others that he's got a keen eye on. But Georgia's setting the pace here. His mom also extremely high on Georgia. Things have clicked fast with James Coley, and Georgia's in fantastic shape for Travis Smith going into the weekend.
Yeah, James Coley has a couple really nice options on that wide receiver board right now. Let's move on to offensive tackle Nick Brooks. He goes 6'7", 300 plus. Nick Brooks seems like one of those typical linemen that UGA ends up signing, just massive.
Well, he's been on campus a bunch, so it's obvious that he's excited about his opportunity from Georgia. Coach Searles, Coach Kirby Smart, the pedigree at the point of attack. Georgia's definitely one of the front runners for Nick Brooks coming into this weekend's official visit. And I think Georgia wants to close some of these guys this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia sped up the timeline of one or two of these visitors this weekend and got them in the fold. I think that's something that they're going to push for with this massive group of prospects on campus.
All right, Georgia fans, let us know. Who do you think the Dogs could close on this weekend? Let us know, comment section below. All right, let's head to Columbus. Ohio State gets their crack at a couple elite wide receivers. A couple of the best wide receivers in America will be on campus, including the number 1 ranked wide receiver, DeCorian Moore, and also Vernell Brown III. Let's start with DeCorian Moore. He was in Nashville with us at the On3 Elite Series. We got to talk to him. He's an incredible human being, unbelievable player as well. DeCorian Moore steps on campus at Columbus, and it seems like Ohio State has a little bit of ground to make up here.
Well, this will be his 3rd time on campus this year, so they're certainly trying. And look, Brian Hartline has them in the thick of this recruitment. On a previous visit, he got a chance to watch Ohio State practice, and he liked the intensity of that wide receiver room. He thinks it's a place that could maximize his potential as a football player. But I agree. I think Ohio State's still playing from behind a little bit here. You get the sense that Texas is the team to beat, spending time with him and his family this weekend and talking to other people with knowledge of the recruitment. But Ohio State and Oregon are programs that DeCorian spoke very highly of. He's excited for these official visits. He's also going to get to LSU next weekend for his official visit to Baton Rouge. So the Tigers, the place he was formerly committed to, are still in play. But it's Ohio State's turn this weekend, and we'll see if they can make a move on the Longhorns.
Yeah, if you spent time around DeCorian Moore this week, you know that Texas holds a special place in his recruitment. I wonder, though, after this weekend, if he'll be singing a different tune when it comes to Ohio State. So we'll talk more about him next week for sure. Now, another one that's trending in Texas's direction is linebacker Riley Pettijohn. It seems like Texas could close on him soon, but he is also in Columbus. Similar conversation that we just had with Moore with Pettijohn.
Well, he had a great visit to Ohio State earlier this year too, and again, it's the coaching staff, the culture. The Sanchez family is doing a good job for Ohio State. Devin Sanchez, 5-star corner, committed to the Buckeyes, of peer recruiting these Lone Star State targets, DeCorian Moore, Riley Pettijohn. So it'll be interesting to see for him what his visit goes like this weekend too. But I think Texas is going to be one of the teams that we're talking about a lot this summer, and it's because of guys like DeCorian Moore and Riley Pettijohn, and it's up to these other programs to try and change that narrative with these official visits.
All right, now Vernell Brown III. Now, it's no longer Texas versus Ohio State. This is the state of Florida versus Ohio State. Vernell Brown III, considering the big 3 in Florida, Miami, Florida State, and Florida, heavily. His dad played at Florida. Ohio State, though, Brian Hartline has them in a great position. We talked to Vernell this week.
I mean, there was a time where I thought Ohio State was the leader for Vernell. I don't feel that way, so they got to rekindle the old magic this weekend. Remind them, hey, this is why we led for you once before. This is the program that can maximize you as a player. We don't have a player like you right now on our roster. He's one of the most dynamic guys in the country. Ohio State absolutely covets him, so they're excited to get him back on campus. But Florida and Florida State are the programs that have the momentum right now for Vernell Brown.
All right, then the last name we want to hit on is edge Justin Hill. He is in Columbus this weekend. What do you think of this recruitment?
Well, I actually think that Ohio State's got their hands full to keep him in state. Alabama and Oregon are two others that have done a really good job of places that he could really see himself at. So Ohio State, the timing is right to get him back to campus because he was just at Oregon a couple weekends ago. There was a time where I thought Ohio State was the clear team to beat for Justin Hill. But they're going to have to battle to keep him in state. They're going to have to battle to keep On3 running back Bo Jackson in state. He was at Georgia recently. He's got an upcoming official to Bama, but he's on his Ohio State visit this weekend.
Who else is on campus this weekend that's notable? Because there's a bunch. And if you guys can go to Letterman Row on the On3 network. They do an incredible job of covering all things Ohio State recruiting and football. They have a full list. But, Steve, who else is notable coming into Columbus this weekend?
Well, they got quite a few guys on campus this weekend. One prospect that I have an On3 RPM in favor of Ohio State for is offensive lineman Henry Fanuku, who was recently in Columbus for the spring. That was a tone-setting visit.
Yeah.
Talked to people around the high school. They thought that Ohio State had set the bar in that recruitment. Now, he was recently at SMU for their Pony Express recruiting weekend. There's some other suitors in there that are maybe making it attractive, but Ohio State is the one that I like right now for Henry Fanuku.
Should be an exciting weekend. Ohio State fans, let us know how you feel. Comment section below. All right, LSU, it's their 5-star weekend, and they got a bunch of them being in the Bayou. 5 stars, DJ Pickett, Dorian Brew, Jamie French, and then some more. But let's start with DJ Pickett. We got a chance to sit down and talk with him at the On3 Elite Series. I mean, LSU really in a great job. Great spot with Pickett.
Yeah, they might be setting the pace for this one right now, and
so.
it's because of Corey Raymond and what he's been able to develop at the position. The family's got a relationship with Patrick Peterson, who obviously speaks highly of Corey Raymond and what Corey Raymond did for him as a young player. He's been to LSU several times. He feels very at home in Baton Rouge. In addition to that player development component, LSU, the vibe around Baton Rouge and that program and campus fits him. So they're going to have to battle to sign him, though, obviously, because Miami and Florida are two schools that the Pickett family's keeping a keen eye on. And if either of them have big seasons, they could become major players for DJ Pickett as well. And then Oregon's a dark horse in that one. He's been out to Eugene a few times, loves Dan Lanning, loves the potential that he has playing for Oregon. But I think right now, going into his official visits, LSU is the program that I would give the edge for DJ Pickett.
Yeah, I like what you said, setting the pace there for that recruitment. All right, Dorian Brew, you spent a good amount of time with him and his family this week. What did you learn about Dorian Brew out of the state of Texas?
Well, I think that, going into this weekend's visit, LSU is one of the front runners, but I might point towards USC and Ohio State as two schools that could be an inch ahead for Dorian Brew. So this is a big weekend for LSU to grab some momentum for one of the most coveted defensive backs in the country that's very versatile. He can do a lot of things in the secondary. He's got some family ties to LSU too. His dad's in the Track Hall of Fame over there. He's got his picture on the wall inside the track facility. There might even be a statue, I think he mentioned as well. So there's a lot of excitement around LSU. Having Corey Raymond back means a lot to Dorian Brew and his family, but USC, Ohio State are two others that are very much in a great spot for him.
All right, Jamie French is also on campus this weekend, the 5-star wide receiver out of Jacksonville, Florida. We talked to Jamie French, and he's excited about this visit. But do you think that these 5-star wide receivers are so close? Do you think that the decommitment of DeCorian Moore hurt LSU's chances with a guy like Jamie French or Khalil Lockett as well?
No, these kids are going to do their own thing. Now, Jamie French and DeCorian Moore could end up playing at Texas together. Same with Khalil Lockett. All three could be Longhorns, but LSU is 1A or in the number 2 spot for a lot of these guys. They led at one point for Khalil Lockett. Jamie French has him number 2 right now, which might not be a bad position to be in for Jamie French. That's because true. Alabama, he was once committed there. Ohio State was the leader in the spring. Now Texas leads, but LSU is very much in it. C.J. Wiley's another major receiver target for LSU, so they still have a chance to sign one of the nation's most special receiver classes, and that starts this weekend as they try and make a move with Jamie French.
Yeah, and like I said, you could tell Jamie French really looking forward to being in the Bayou this weekend. All right, any other notes, any other significant official visitors that you're watching at LSU?
Well, Khalil Lockett's obviously there this weekend. So, again, they led at some point in the spring for him. Texas has the momentum right now. We'll see what happens with LSU this weekend. Damian Shanklin from Indianapolis Warren Central was at LSU spring game. He was blown away. He spent a lot of time with the guys already committed to LSU, felt very comfortable around those guys and felt like he fit in. And then Coach Bo Davis, a massive pickup for LSU in the Damian Shanklin sweepstakes as they battle Ohio State and others for him. Micah DeBose is an offensive line recruit that at one point was committed to Georgia. When he opened his process, you had some Auburn buzz. There's some LSU.
He was trending heavily to Auburn. I mean, I remember talking to Jeffrey Lee. We had him on commit watch a couple times. He kept visiting and visiting, and then LSU kind of jumped into that one.
Right. Well, LSU, Alabama, a couple programs I'm watching there, but LSU full court press on Micah DeBose. So they're one of the favorites. So LSU's going to have a chance to land a lot of these guys this weekend as they try and add to a recruiting haul that we rank number 2 nationally at On3 right now.
Absolutely exciting weekend at LSU. All right, let's talk Clemson, and this is a big weekend because it's the only weekend that Clemson hosts official visitors in the month of June, and we know some guys are going to be coming off the board. That's typically what happens when they set their sights on this early June big official visit weekend. So let's take a look at some of the names, and let's start with the number 1 offensive tackle in America, David Sanders. Despite all the visits he's taken, we've always remembered to mention that Clemson is the team to watch. And now he takes his official visit this weekend. What's your expectations here?
Well, I think that Ohio State and Tennessee are the programs that have emerged, in my opinion, in this recruitment with fantastic trips to Columbus and Knoxville this calendar year. Clemson checks a lot of boxes for him and his family from the culture, and certainly, again, he grew up rooting for Clemson. But as we come into this recruiting visit this weekend, talking to people at the On3 Elite Series, I think that Ohio State and Tennessee are the programs I'm watching the closest. So if Clemson emerges from this weekend back in pole position, I think it's because they made a move and slungshot themselves back up to the top.
Yeah. And he's been to Ohio State. He's been to Tennessee a bunch recently. So this visit tapping back in with Clemson is very important for them. Let's talk about offensive tackle Josh Petty, another 5-star offensive lineman on campus. Now, we like Florida State here, but could you see Clemson kind of turning the tide with this visit?
Yeah, Clemson, Stanford, Ohio State are a few other programs that I think are going to challenge Florida State for Josh Petty. He's been there several times, again, coming this weekend, one of their top overall targets. So it would not surprise me if we're talking a lot more about Clemson coming out of this trip.
Right. All right. A pair of elite safeties, Anquan Fegans and Jordan Young, will both be on campus. Which do you think Clemson sits in a better position with heading into the weekend?
Jordan Young. I think right now Anquan Fegans, I like where Auburn stands. But again, these guys are taking their visits, going out and taking inventory of their opportunities and where they might fit best. So we might be singing a different tune about Anquan Fegans coming out of the weekend. But there's no question that Jordan Young has always had Clemson at or near the top of his list.
All right, 2 elite safeties. Now, let's talk a little bit more broadly about Clemson's weekend. We said that at the top it's their only weekend. And last year, we saw some commitments. We saw some major commitments. 2 5-stars in Sammy Brown and Bryant Wesco. Both were a part of that weekend. I'm not asking you to put anybody on commit watch, but is that the expectation this weekend, that Clemson is going to take some really good players off the board?
Well, when they put all their eggs into this basket a weekend, they're certainly going to land some of these guys. They're not going to post an offer, So whether that's offensive lineman Hardy Watts or linebacker Kamar Archie, maybe they're a thorn in the side for Georgia for Chauncey Gooden. Bryce Davis is out there, the coveted edge rusher from North Carolina. So it'll be interesting to see where the chips fall, because Clemson is capable of getting a surprise commitment or two out of this weekend.
Absolutely. So let's let you take us out of here with a couple more big visit weekends. There's just so much going on all across the country. I can't wait to sit down and wrap it all up with you on Monday, but Let's talk about a couple other schools that are having big visit weekends and then take us out of here.
Yeah, Missouri, they're working on a second straight top 25 class. They're coming off a top 10 season and their big win over Ohio State to cap what was a fun ride for them. And they got some momentum on the recruiting trail, and they're in the mix for some of the best offensive linemen in the country. And many of them are going to be on campus this weekend. Michael Fasusi, Andrew Babalola, Lamont Rogers, Carius Kern. Lamont Rogers is one that I could very much see.
Is that the one
Missouri.
you're circling?
Yeah, of that group, I think that Missouri has the best chance to land him. And then Yosei Epinesa is a on 300 defensive lineman that we talked a lot about Iowa and Miami for. He already took an official to Penn State, but Coach Drinkwitz has been at his basketball game. And when Coach Drinkwitz went to Epinesa's basketball game, man, he cheered like he was in the family. I mean, anytime Epinesa made a big play in that game, you know, he's going nuts, grabbing Epinesa's dad, cheering. I mean, there's a lot of great energy there with Coach Drink. UCF, Coach Malzahn and company are having a massive recruiting weekend. It includes Alabama 4-star linebacker commit Daryl Duke Johnson, who's with us this week at the On3 Elite Series. Malik Autry, the coveted defensive lineman committed to Auburn's going to be there. Safety Jonte Gilbert, 4-star safety Ladarian Clady, 4-star receiver Javon Boggs, a former Ohio State
huge
commit.
Weekend in Orlando.
Yeah, and they're in a good spot for a couple offensive linemen when you're talking about Gavin Blanchard, Demetrius Campbell, edge rusher Nicholas Clayton's high on UCF. They're battling Ohio State for Andrew Stargell out of Roswell, and then receiver Carl Jenkins is another that UCF is in a really good spot for. Look, there's going to be a lot to cover. You're going to want to watch the Inside Scoop. You're going to want to be staying up on On3, all our team sites that are covering these recruiting weekends. I'm going to be on top of it. Chad's going to be on top of it. We're going to recap it on next Monday's Wiltfong Whip Around. But until then, thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.